What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Alex here. Are we tired of the tags yet? Well, I'm not. I love this. And I wanted to throw my hat in the ring here because more is needed. That's what I think, right? We're going to talk about prog, and if you know prog, more is always a more. But really, progressive rock, all the offshoots, probably my favorite overall genre of music. I did a little bit of research, I guess. It looks like there was a prog tag that was going on back a few years ago, back in 2021. Haven't been able to really find anything since. I know there's been like some parodies, which I think are hilarious and I love. But you know what? I love prog music and prog people love prog, and we're going to dive in. And I am creating the 2024 progressive vinyl tag, CD tag, music tag, whatever you want to call it. Now, if I am stepping on anybody's toes, please let me know. I will do everything I can to make sure that the proper person gets support. But again, I was doing some research and I couldn't find anything recently. So I want to throw the hat in the ring. So bring your capes, bring your 45-minute songs, bring your pretentiousness. You are now in the prog atmosphere here. So 20 questions, a suite of questions, if you will. It will move in about 3 different movements. I'm kidding, but there are actually 20 questions. Now, here's the thing. I'm a vinyl guy. It's beer and vinyl, although I'm drinking coffee because it's the middle of the workday. Cheers. But I'm a vinyl guy, but that means not show your CDs, show your cassettes, show your 8-track, show a combination of all of them. Even if you're not like a collector, just talk about it, answer in the comments, whatever. You know, truthfully, prog has sort of become this very, pretentious, inaccessible, exclusive sort of category. And I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about, you know what, let's open this up. Let's make this more accessible. Let's make this more open. And I think less rigid edges. So keep that in mind. I want to move away from the term prog and move into the phrase music that is progressive. So some of these questions and what I'll be showing is less about the prog of early mid 70s and what we've known about it, and more about what if we rethink this of music that is progressive. What were some of the earlier or later sort of influences that are still creating amazing music out there, but we might not necessarily call them formally prog bands, but definitely some offshoots. So I think I got a good list of, some early quote unquote proto-prog, some later, maybe some progressive metal, some art rock, some other various categories. So even if you're not a prog fan, I think that you'd be able to do this tag. And obviously, if you are a prog fan, you go all in, get your Rick Wakeman cape out there, get your, start drumming in 17/8, whatever you want to do to make this fun and make this for you. So I don't make this like every prog record or song ever. I got 20 questions and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on each record because I want this to be more about you all and seeing what you have and what you want to talk about. But I will answer these. Again, I went in and just, my thoughts going into what I was grabbing here, there's a lot of options for a lot of these questions, and I wanted to show some things that maybe aren't shown as much. So again, be creative. There's no real wrong answers. Think about music that is progressive, not necessarily just prog. And it doesn't matter if you're a CD person, vinyl person, whatever that is, do what's best for you. And let me know how you would answer these questions or what you think in the comments below. I think I'm supposed to say that. Let's do it. So question number one. We'll start number one. Show a debut. The debut I'm going to show is from Crack the Sky, U.S. progressive band. This was, I think, 75 or 76, something like that, from West Virginia. An incredible debut from Crack the Sky. Number 2, show a progressive artist or album that you got into last year in 2023. For me, this is part of the Norwegian sort of utopia that is progressive rock right now, but I'm going to go with the band Wobbler. This is totally a throwback to, early 70s progressive rock, big Genesis influences, big Mellotron, all that kind of stuff. This is the record Afterglow, but I do have a handful of them. Wobbler, absolutely amazing. Number 3, we're calling this the Golden Jubilee. If you don't know what a Golden Jubilee is, that is celebrating 50 years. So a progressive rock album, or a progressive album from 1974. The record I am going to go with is You from Gong. Gong doesn't get talked about a lot. This is progressive, this is spacey, this is a little bit jazzy. They've gone through a number of different iterations, but I'm gonna go with Gong You, kind of known as maybe their masterpiece, but yeah, this is some out there type spacey stuff. May or may not have to have some, I don't know, substances to support you through this if you are so inclined, but an incredible album, incredible band, Gong You from 1974. Question number 4, show a favorite live album. There are so many great live albums. I went back because I listened to the hell out of this record when I was growing up in high school and really getting into music. I'm gonna go with Bursting Out from Jethro Tull. This was what, 77 or 78? 78. I think this was on sort of that maybe Heavy Horses / era. Incredible set list, incredible live band, one of my favorite progressive live albums of all time. Jethro Tull, Bursting Out. Show a non-UK prog band. So, you know, UK has kind of been the birthplace of the formal progressive rock, but, you know, show somebody who's not from the UK. I went all the way to Sweden for sort of that third wave of progressive rock, I guess, and the Flower Kings. This to me is their masterpiece, Stardust We Are, came out in the late 90s. Absolutely incredible record, but this is like a triple or a quad. I mean, this is a big, long record, but I love it. The Flower Kings from Sweden. Number 6, show a proto-prog album. So, kind of said this before, you know, if we consider that the formal start of progressive rock was in 1969 with this record, a lot of you know this record, obviously, and this is the sort of formal starting point. What were some of the records that came out before that had progressive elements, that had movements, that were utilizing different sounds, that were kind of getting out of what everybody sort of thought was your typical 1-4-5 pop or blues song or whatever it was? So if this is the formal start in 1969, what were those records or artists that came out before this that sort of became, you know, retroactively what we looked at as progressive music? And for me, the first one I think of is Shine On Brightly from 1968 from Procol Harum, of course, and Hell 'Twas an I, which is arguably the first big progressive rock epic of all time, but Procol Harum was one of those bands that was doing the sort of proto-progressive rock music in the mid to late 60s, along with a handful of other bands. So yeah, Shine On Brightly from Procol Harum. This, of course, you know, get out the pretentiousness here. Show an album with an epic. However you want to define epic. I said 10 or 15 minutes long, but whatever you want to define as an epic, go right ahead. I went with something a little bit new here. I went with the Neil Morse Band. This is their record from a couple years ago, Innocence and Danger. And all of side 5 and all of side 6 is taken up by a song called Beyond the Years, which I believe is roughly 29 to 32 minutes long. It is an absolute beast, huge epic. It's like you need a cigarette afterwards. It felt like you just watched and experienced a movie. Absolutely outstanding, super epic. Neil Morse Band, the record's Innocence and Danger. Amazing, amazing progressive rock. And the track is Beyond the Years as the epic of my choice. Let's see, we're at number 8. Show an album with a proggy song from a non-proggy artist. So this is kind of a fun one. Think about some of those artists that are not prog at all, but they all have some kind of proggy song that we could consider. I'm going to go with a favorite band of mine and my favorite record from them. I'm going to go with Deep Purple in Rock as the record of choice. And of course, the song I'm going to go with is Child in Time, which is one of my favorite records of all time. I don't know if you can hear the siren going on, but we have a 12 o'clock noon siren that goes off every Wednesday, so we love to experience that on the videos. Yeah, Deep Purple, Child in Time. You could argue that is a proggy song, a lot of different movements, a lot of different changes. Absolutely epic. Love that song. Number 9, an underrated gem or forgotten favorite. Maybe an artist or an album that people don't talk about or is underrated. Well, for me, this was a band that is a staple of progressive rock. Everybody loves them. And when this came out, I think it freaked some people out. But again, when we look back on it, I'm finding myself putting this in my top 5 Yes albums of all time. No John Anderson, no problem. I love Drama. This lineup that comes in absolutely killed it. Machine Messiah is one of my favorite Yes songs, and I just think opens this record so damn good. I love Yes Drama. And yeah, I just think a lot of people should talk about this more in terms of the greats of the Yes catalog. Yeah, all in on Yes Drama. Number 10, an album that showcases your favorite progressive vocalist. I am going to go with one of the lone women in Prague. That is a thing. But I'm going to go with Annie Haslam from Renaissance, and this is their live album, live at Carnegie Hall. I think this was 76 this came out. Incredible set list. Both C and D sides are taken up by the long epics of Renaissance's catalog. Scheherazade or Songs of Scheherazade and Ashes Are Burning. Absolutely incredible epic songs. Annie Haslam, one of the most beautiful voices in all of music. If you're not into Renaissance, get into them. They're outstanding. Number 11. Is it Prog? Show an album that you describe as art rock. If you don't know art rock, give that a Google, but there's a ton of bands that sort of fall into this weird prog art rock sort of thing. Like everything else, the Beatles created everything. You could argue the Beatles created art rock, but for me, for art rock, I'm going to go with Roxy Music's second album, For Your Pleasure. This is my favorite Roxy Music album. I think it is their proggiest. And yeah, great album, cool cover. And yeah, that's my pick for art rock album. Number 12, show a solo album from an artist who is in or was in a prog band. Well, I know a lot of people out there are going to choose this because this is one of the best albums of all time, and I'm going to choose it too because it is a top 5 favorite album of all time for me. I'm going to go with Steven Wilson's 2015 masterpiece, Hand Cannot Erase. Of course, Steven Wilson was coming from Porcupine Tree at the time, and this is when he was still sort of in his prog-leaning solo days. Of course, that would change in just a couple years after this, but to me, this is one of my favorite albums of all time, one of my most listened to albums. So Hand Cannot Erase from Steven Wilson is my solo artist pick. Number 13, I titled this Jack of All Trades, Master of All Trades. So show a genre-bending artist or album, something that is just so out there, you don't even know what to call it because it could be called anything. Is it prog? Is it jazz? Is it comedy? Is it art rock? It's easy. It's Zappa. Frank Zappa, love Frank Zappa. This is arguably my favorite. I went ahead and went with One Size Fits All here. Frank could do anything. Later, he was doing some pop stuff. Earlier, he was doing some psychedelic stuff. After that, he was doing just some, wild stuff with Ruben and the Jets, some doo-wop stuff. Yeah, I'm all in on Frank Zappa. I don't know what to call him. I don't care. Is he prog? Is he jazz? He's one thing, man. He's Zappa. All right. Number 14, the 80s called. Show an 80s record. Well, my favorite 80s progressive rock band is Marillion, and I'm going to go with my favorite from them. This is Clutching at Straws, the last one to feature Fesh on vocals. And yeah, an absolute neo-prog 80s progressive rock masterpiece for me. Love this album, love this band, and this is my favorite. Clutching at Straws from Marillion. I think that was 1987, 88, something like that. Not Dead Yet. Show a late career album from a progressive band. We're going to tiptoe into progressive metal a little bit here, although with this album, they really got away from a lot of those progressive elements, but I wanted to give them a shout out because I don't feel that they're appreciated enough. One of the classic progressive metal bands that really started the genre back in the 80s was Queensryche. They had a lot of issues with their singer, Jeff Tate, and the rest of the band, but the past 10 years or so, they've had a new singer, some new band members, and I think they're putting out some killer stuff. And so this is Queensryche, Digital Noise Alliance from a couple of years ago. There's stuff that they're doing with Todd Latore I just think is amazing. Yeah, it's not really as progressive of what we think it was, 30 years ago, but I think they're outstanding. I wanted to give a shout out to them. And then trickle some prog metal in here as well. Number 16, show a record or a CD or whatever from an artist that you miss. There's a lot of people that we miss that we wish were still with us. For me, I'm still reeling a little bit on from Neil Peart. Just kind of recognized, I don't want to say celebrated, but just past the 4-year passing of his passing just a couple days ago. Just a giant, one of my favorite bands of all time, one of my favorite drummers of all time. Yeah, Neil Peart is my choice for an artist that I miss. Prog Goes Pop. Show a prog album that crossed over into pop a little bit. One of the classics, I'm going to go with Supertramp, Breakfast in America. Absolutely outstanding. They were able to marry those two styles so well. I love this record, even though it isn't one of my favorites from them. But it's still just a great record and married progressive rock and pop music so well. Supertramp, Breakfast in America. Number 18, show a prog album with a cover that you love or cover art that you love. I'm going to go with Caravan, Canterbury Band, In the Land of Grey and Pink. That Tolkien-influenced cover, amazing. This is a great progressive rock record as well. Very, very English, But yeah, I've always loved the cover art there. Awesome. An Alley of Grand and Pink. I think this was 71 or so. But from Caravan. Number 19, an album that you recommend to a non-prog fan. Well, there's a lot of different ways you can go with something like this, depending on where they're coming from. But to me, a great era of a classic prog band that really crossed over into other areas was the 80s era of King Crimson. So I'm going to go with Discipline. Obviously, with Adrian Belew added here, you're getting a ton of, you know, sort of what would become the Talking Heads or that Talking Heads influence there. This is very artsy. This is very New York. This is very, very different from what King Crimson was doing before, but still undoubtedly King Crimson. And so, yeah, if you're coming from maybe that art rock standpoint, love the Talking Heads, a lot of those types of bands, but haven't really taken the delve into prog, this would be a great place to start, I think. Or any of the two, Beat or Three of a Perfect Pair that comes after this. Incredible records and great for somebody maybe trying to get into it. And then last, the big one. Go ahead and show your favorite prog album of all time. If you have one, well, for me, we're going to go back into progressive metal world. This is what changes the game for me. My favorite album of all time, period. And that is from 1999, Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory from the Great Dream Theater. Talk about them ad nauseum on here. I know they're not for everybody, but they are for me. And for me, that's all I care about. But this is their epic magnum opus concept record. I could listen to this a million more times, even though I've listened to it a million already and know it inside and out. Fantastic. Love this album so much. It really sort of defined the band in a difficult time, and they've been just killing it ever since. So yeah, Dream Theater, Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from Memory is my pick for favorite prog album or progressive album of all time. So there you go. 20 questions. Try to keep it quick. Feel free to jump on this if you'd like to. I would love to see what you all have. I know this is not the most popular of music genres, but that's okay because it means a lot to people who do love it. So thanks for watching. Let me know if you do post one of these or jump on this tag. I would love to add a playlist and check all of you out. If you don't have a channel or if you don't want to make a video or whatever, feel free to put the answers to these questions in the comments, and I'll check that out too, and just would love to hear what you all have to say and have to show. So thanks for joining. Hope people jump on. Yeah, have a good rest of the day. Cheers, y'all. Bye.